Hello, welcome to Free Will, Science, and Religion. I'm Chandler Klebs, and I'm here with Jamie Soden, George Ortega, and WSD Time or Will, whichever. I don't know what he wants me to call him. um, but anyway, yeah. In this episode, we're going to talk about belief in an afterlife. Is an afterlife possible? What causes people to believe an afterlife is possible? And how does the belief about free will relate to it? um, I have something I could say about that, or what do you guys want to start?
No, start us off, Chandler. Absolutely.
Okay, I'll start us off by saying that first of all, um, almost like I've looked into beliefs in an afterlife. You know, there's Christianity, there's heaven or hell, but that's based on free will belief. That basically you choose by either certain actions or by believing certain things, which you also don't choose what you believe. So either way, you aren't in control of what afterlife you get. But, you know, those are the common things. And the Christian apologists say that you use your free will and you choose to go to hell because you chose to reject Jesus and, you know, stuff like that. Unless they're Calvinists, in which case they say, well, God predetermines it and you have no say in the matter, which is really, really messed up in its own way. But there's other afterlife theories, and I know that Jamie Soden will be interested in this, but see, reincarnation is another afterlife belief that, you know, Hindus, Buddhists, and Jainists, and some of these people seem to believe in, that after you die, you're reborn into some other life. And you might be a different species or something, you know? And I always found that view cool. For a while, I found it cool. Like, hey, maybe I'll be reincarnated into a bird, but how do I know I won't be reincarnated into a cockroach? And once again, what determines which afterlife you end up in? And once again, the free will belief shows up. Because it's supposedly you are rewarded or punished by karma for your good or bad actions that carries over to your next life. And so every bad thing you do, you will be punished for. Every good thing you do, you'll be rewarded for. So what happens is people, it makes, and now it's very effective at changing people's behavior. And you will find that people who have that belief, it's true that often because they believe that they will be rewarded or punished, that does have an effect, and it does make them extremely moral in certain ways. Of course, it can be twisted wrong, but they're still based on a false belief of free will. Um, and it's just, and it's really weird. But perhaps the one thing is, I'll just say for right now, I don't believe an afterlife is a possible thing, and we might get into why about that. But more importantly, I realize it's not up to me what next life I would end up in any more than it was up to me that I ended up in this life.
Sounds good. Um, okay, so let's explore then. Whether what would be the reasoning, not the belief, because we want to try to reason this out. What might be the reasoning that would provide some kind of an evidence for an afterlife? And I think the closest that I can come to this is there's a couple of things. One is that according to our science, the universe at the time of the Big Bang was about the size of an atom, or very, very small, right?
Yeah.
And so basically, we are part. In other words, we're part of what the universe was at that point. In other words, and so from a certain perspective, so the universe got expanded and expanded, and now we're this teeny, teeny part of it, but we're still a part of this one whole. And again, I don't think, it answers it completely, but that's one way of understanding or attempting to provide evidence. Another way might be, it's a bit more difficult. It's kind of like the idea that there's a law in physics is called the law of conservation of mass energy, that basically says that you can't either create or destroy matter. Matter exists, eternally, whatever. So the idea is like, if we did have a
Yep.
soul, if we do have a soul, then, you know, we can't destroy that soul. It has to like exist forever. Now, again, it might, like right now we're like separated into like, 7 billion people. Maybe when we die, maybe we kind of like go back into this one thing and we don't have a personal self anymore. But again, I think that the best answer is like that's speculative, and there's really not, I guess in this point in time we still can't really say for any kind, with any kind of like accuracy what really happens.
And I think, like, really the self is sort of an illusion. It's just a convenient thing, sort of like time or money. But I understand that since matter is neither created or destroyed, every atom of my body now was a part of other plants and animals and all sorts of other objects, and that I don't believe in a soul because I don't understand. Like, when did it stop being the soul of those other things and start becoming a new soul that supposedly never existed? Because that's the deal, is that, like under the system of Christianity, that God creates a new soul each time an embryo is conceived, which is kind of weird to me. That idea really freaked me out. And then there was stuff like, identical twins where the egg splits, and so then you have identical souls. And I tried to figure it out, and I just couldn't.
I hear. What, Jamie, Will, what do you guys think?
Um, well, how I think about a possible afterlife is pretty much what you said about law of conservation. I think since law of conservation means that energy and mass cannot be created nor destroyed, but merely changes from one form to another, that does leave some opening for a physical afterlife, but not a spiritual one. Um, that means we won't get a choice in what happens, and it won't necessarily be based on any deep moral responsibility for anything. It'll just be natural selection if we do come back as another physical life form.
Okay, Will.
Well, with me, it's almost like what Jamie just said. And like I said, man, just this life sucks, man. Really don't want to come back to it. Don't want to come back as a fucking zombie either, but
Yeah, but what we want and what actually happens are two different things. You know what I mean? We can't let fear get in the way of rationality.
All right, so here's something. Let's say we go with the belief that, like, we have this life, and then let's say nothing happens. We just cease to exist. Now, remember in the last podcast, actually it was like the impersonal opinion podcast. We were exploring, all the problems in the world and how, like, to not allow them to get to us, so we can continue to be happy. So this relates to that. In other words, like, to the extent we believe that after this life we just cease to exist, and we're going to be like ceasing to exist for billions and billions and who knows trillions of years, then in a certain sense, even though, like, we have to agree, we have to acknowledge this life sucks in so many ways, there's so many problems, but relative to the
that's another
expanse
thing.
of time, yeah, in other words, like, relative to, like, we're all going to die, we're here 80, 90 years, whatever, then we're all going to die. So relative to this expanse of time that existed before we were born and that's going to exist after we're born, that idea of, like, don't sweat the small stuff. So even the most dire problems like climate change all of a sudden become very insignificant because you've got eons of time, behind us and in front of us.
Yeah, and it really, there is a benefit to that, and since I believe that we just are no more after we die, there have been several benefits to that belief. I mean, that does actually make me feel better, because you know what that means? That means there's a great equality in it. Nobody wins or loses because we all end up the same. you know and that's what I think is interesting about it, because back before when I was taught that there were going to be that 99% of the humans were going to be in hell burning for eternity, that was a much worse belief. And so some people, like, they try to say, well, believing that you're just dead after you're dead, they say that's depressing, and I'm like, not as depressing as what Christianity offers.
At least with Jehovah's Witnesses, that's what they believe in. You
Yeah.
just die.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Like, I've wondered about that. Like, what's the motive for the religion, following all the rules of the religion without the whole hell threat? You have to wonder.
And that's where this free will thing comes in. In other words, like, if the world finally understands free will is an illusion, it doesn't exist, all the justification for threatening people with hell evaporates. There's no longer, it makes no
falls
sense.
apart, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to say that's got to be like the number one reason I'm part of this No Free Will project. Seriously, just because people have been justifying that belief in hell, and so many children have been traumatized through that, and I think it's so. And what's so difficult about it is that you can't disprove disprove the existence of God or hell and stuff like that, but you can prove that people don't have a free will, and that it's unjust. And that's the route I go these days.
That makes sense. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there's no free will. The whole idea of retribution in the afterlife just doesn't make sense. I mean, you've got to admit. I mean, the one good thing about death, right? I wouldn't say like, I wouldn't say murder is a good thing, because it certainly isn't. But what I'm saying is, the one good thing that comes in death is that you won't feel pain. Once you're gone, you're gone. You don't experience suffering. You don't know that anyone else is suffering. You're just gone from this world. And
Will, you mentioned.
Sorry, go ahead.
You mentioned Jehovah's Witnesses. You said they don't believe in an afterlife. I never knew that. Can you explain that?
They do, but they believe that anybody that's good is going to thrive on the planet after the Great Tribulation. Everybody that doesn't believe, is pretty much dead. They're conscious of nothing. They're aware of nothing. It's just nothingness.
Mercy.
Interesting. You know what you might want to, if you talk to any of them, you might want to ask them this question. In about maybe 5 billion years, or I don't know how long, we're gonna we're getting closer and closer to the sun, or the sun is getting hotter and hotter, I think. So eventually this Earth isn't going to be there. So then the question to Jehovah's Witnesses is, what happens after that?
and you know what they're going to say?
You know what their answer is? The Earth can't be destroyed.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
right.
That flat part of the planet where they still believe the Bible is the planet is flat. It's on a stagnant.
Yeah, and George.
Stationary, basically.
Well, and George, you may or may not know this, but the Jehovah's Witnesses have their own version of the Bible, so it's kind of a tricky thing. Plus, they heavily reinterpret things. It's kind of weird because the mainstream Christian denominations consider them like some weird cult or something, but they say they're the true Christians. You know how that goes. You
know what I don't get about religion?
Every religion believes they're the true religion.
I was about to say that, Will. And I don't get that. They all believe that they're right and everyone else is wrong. How could you believe that?
Yeah, they all say they're right and everyone else is wrong, and so there's okay. So here's the deal. Like, I've heard some people say it, that the only possibilities are that one of them is right or that they're all wrong.
Yeah.
What I never understood is all these religions are saying this, and they never put two and two together. Like, wait a minute, there are thousands of religions out here, but yet everybody's saying this wrong. Shouldn't that ring a few? Isn't that raise a few eyebrows or ring some bell in your head or something?
Oh yeah.
At least the punishment in Jehovah's Witness is still a greater mercy than eternal torture, isn't it, George?
Well,
being skinned alive, being burned alive.
I hear you.
Being cut to pieces. Like this up there in the 9 circles of hell, or being contorted in a frozen block or whatever. Fuck.
All right, Will,
Or burial in fucking gold? Yeah.
you bring up something with freezing, okay? Because like basically, like right now, we're just guessing. We have no idea what happens after we die, right? But you know, they have succeeded like with a goldfish. A goldfish, I think you can freeze, and I don't know how long you can keep the goldfish frozen, but you can completely freeze the goldfish, and where it's not like there's no metabolism and stuff, and bring that goldfish back to life. I think you can even do it with small rodents and stuff. So there may come a time where like, you know, you can freeze a person. There's a lot of people already frozen, you know? So like bring them back to life 10 years after that. You know they have to be dead because like how could you like be alive for 10 years? So like, then that'd be cool. Then it'd be interesting to see what they say.
Yeah, that's so funny, man. I don't know. You know, whenever you talk about
Unless that thing with Idiocracy happens. Anybody see the movie Idiocracy?
Yeah.
I
hope that could be another thing that happens.
Well, you know what's interesting about the Idiocracy? I saw it, but here's the thing. What I don't get is I'm aware of research that says that every generation, people's IQs are increasing about 10%. So, like, you know, I get, like, in politics, American people are, like, so colossally stupid now. It's unbelievable. But I don't understand how that fact coincides with people getting smarter.
I don't get it either.
Because I told you before, it's a parent. If the parent is a freaking idiot, naturally the kid's going to be an idiot.
Yeah, I hear you, but like again, like the research, some research says that like for example, your generation is about 10%, you know, higher in IQ, you know, Chandler, Jamie, whatever. Well, how old are you?
30.
So yeah, all right, so you guys are like, say, yeah, your generation, all three of you, you're about 10, at least 10 points more intelligent than my generation, and then your kids are going to be 10. So like, you know, apparently, you know, you're right. I see stupidity all around. So it just like it confuses me so much how we can be getting so much more stupid while at the same time apparently doing better on IQ tests. I don't get that.
Have the IQ test gotten stupider?
Oh, that could be. That maybe they're getting easier. That's interesting.
That's just a guess. Right on my screen, it's saying there's a problem with this call, and it's showing something wrong with WSD times connection. So I think it might be his internet connection or something.
I see. Will, are you there?
Yeah, there's a problem.
He'll be back. Because I see in his icon. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna can we take him off the call and remove? I don't know if we can take him off the call, but if we can
you can take him off the call and then put him back in. Yeah.
Jamie, can you do that? Because I can't see how to do that.
I can't because I'm not the host, am I?
Oh.
Yeah, and I don't know what to do. I don't want to screw up our podcast.
Yeah, no, I know. All right, the call dropped. So all right, so let's somebody add him. I'll see if I can add him. WSD.
Oh yeah, about the afterlife thing. I mean, religious people come up with all stupid reasons on why people should be punished in the afterlife as well. I mean, not just with homosexuality, but, you know, sex before marriage. I mean, it's supposed to be a sin in Christianity, isn't it? And also, if you get divorced, isn't that a sin in Christianity?
Yeah.
A sin in Christianity.
Yeah, in fact, the reason that my mom didn't divorce my dad was because she was taught it was a sin. So I'm really sensitive about that one.
All right, I added Will, and then he came back off again. I'm going to try to add him again. But so what do you guys think? What do you guys think of, like, you know, eventually, like, knowing for sure? We don't have to guess anymore. You know, we people die, we bring them back to life. They tell us what it's like, and like we can't do it with just one person, obviously. Like we do it for like with 1,000 or maybe 1,000 people would be enough. You know, and then they tell us, and so we know for sure. I think that'd be so cool.
That would be cool. And then what would be interesting is depending on what we found out, then how do you think that would change things? You know what I mean? Like let's just say that everybody believed that death was truly the end. you know, or let's say that they all found out that they're going to get reincarnated into a tadpole, you know, I mean, like, like, how would that change people in the way they think?
Oh, Chandler, you just brought up another question. So, like, let's say people after they die get reincarnated into a tadpole, right? But
Yeah.
10 years later, we bring them back. So what happens? Like, they're swimming in this pond all of a sudden, like, how does that work?
Yeah, how does that work? So then, does that mean that they died as a tadpole or a frog when we brought him back?
Right, and we would we have to wait until they die as a tadpole to bring them back? So yeah,
This is funny.
Yeah.
actually it's interesting because, like, I think free will is an amazingly productive, question. Not just productive, but like, just the idea that everybody believes stuff is up to us when nothing is. It's like amazing, but like this whole death thing, because like it faces us all, right? And like I think very few people, a lot of people don't even talk about it. They're afraid to talk about it and stuff. But to me, I think that's probably the coolest question that we can consider, even though we may not ever get an answer.
Yeah, and you know what, George? I would say that was one of the biggest things that got me into this whole thing we're doing now, because I thought about death constantly. The unborn babies. I wondered. Now the reason, and here's the deal, is that I was trying to merge the beliefs that I was taught by Christianity and asking, well, what happens to unborn babies when they die? And you know what? Everybody said different things. Some say, oh, well, they go to hell because they never accepted Jesus as their savior. And other people said, oh, well, unborn babies go to heaven because they haven't reached the age of accountability, whatever that is, And so it's all messed up, because what I figured out, George, is understanding that we don't have a free will, that whatever happens to unborn babies would be the same as what happens to us now, because we are just as fundamentally innocent as they are anyway. So basically, the sinners are the people who got to be born long enough to sin more.
I hear you.
Yeah.
It's interesting that, like, it's a conundrum for, like, I think in Judaism the belief is that, like, under, I think, age 5 or some kind of age of accountability, like you were saying, that the infant would be innocent, right? And so then that brings up the question. It's not just the question of, like, abortion. It's like the question is, like, well, if you're thinking of having a kid, right?
Yeah.
Bringing a kid into this world, and you believe in Christianity or Judaism or Islam that says, like, well, this kid, might, do something so horrible that they're going to spend the rest of eternity suffering. Is it really a wise thing to do to bring this kid into the world?
Right, and you know what? I thought the same thing, and I'm like, how sadistic do you have to be to create more children by having sex who are going to go to hell? I mean, how sadistic and stupid do you have to be to do that?
And selfish, yeah, because parents like, oh yeah, I want a kid. Little kid's going to be so cute. It's going to be so much fun. They're not thinking about the kid.
Yeah, they're not. That's what I've noticed is like, I thought about that, and that was my reasoning for a few years. That was my reasoning for staying a virgin, was because I didn't want my kids to go to hell. And it was kind of a funny thing, that whole phase. I mean, that's a whole other podcast right there. Yeah.
I think Trick, I think, is like, he's an anti-natalist or something also. So we got to get him in on a call like this, because it makes sense. It makes sense. Like if you have this, kid who can conceivably, and even like, like, what is better, non-existing or this life? So if we're all going to die anyhow, and we're going to be dead for like eons and eons, then maybe it's a kinder, more compassionate thing to allow our kids to stay non-existent or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the kind of thing, is that
for abortion, you know what I mean? So in some cases, I think it can be justified. I think if the parents are too stupid to look after it, then it might as well not be brought into this world.
Yeah, well, here's what's interesting about it, is that and here's the big problem, because if you, like, let's say everybody agrees that it's better to not exist than to exist, and everybody agrees on that. Well, then here's the deal. Sterilize legalization for everyone, abortion for everyone, or better yet, let's just all kill each other now. You know what I'm saying? If that's the conclusion, and so it's kind of weird once you go that route. And but I'm sort of the other end
Yeah, but
where
it's pointless, you know what I mean? Some of us have got like life's worth living. I mean,
yeah.
quality of life.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, and so I see where Trick is coming from with the antinatalism thing, but at the same time, I don't go along with this idea. Oh well, let's just let everybody choose whether they're going to kill their kids or not. I mean, I don't see that as an ethically satisfying issue, because if I was like antinatalist, I would be pro-abortion and it would be illegal not to kill your kids. That would be how I'd have to go if that's the right thing, so that's the problem I have with that.
No, it makes sense. I know.
Yeah, because I don't understand, if there's something that is the best thing to do, well, why would you want people to be doing any less than the best? And so I don't that's the thing, is that I can't be unbiased and act like it doesn't matter.
Yeah. You may know a bit more about this than I do, Chandler. I think I once read that like the Essenes, the Jewish sect that Jesus came from, because I don't think he was either a Pharisee or a Sadducee or whatever. I think the Essenes were celibate. They didn't have kids. I mean, am I right about that?
Yeah, yes. That was on a documentary I watched before. Yeah, something about the Essenes, and also, as you may know the Shakers. Yeah, there was a group called the Shakers where sex was the group died out because they didn't reproduce. It was really funny, but they were popular for a while. But the only remainders of them are the children that they adopted. Because that's how it was. They adopted people, but they never reproduced because it was just wrong to them.
Right. Otherwise, they have to evangelize. They got to get new recruits. Yeah.
And you know what, George? For some reason, trying to evangelize a celibacy message does not work very well. Because look, man, even though I know that I'm right, that yes, if everybody, just stayed a virgin for life and never reproduced, that would solve all the problems of humanity. That would totally work. So my logic on that is perfect. I just can't get people to agree to do that.
So, all right. So, what happens? We've got about, I guess, 2 minutes left. Have we explored all the possibilities on this? Is there a different possibility that we haven't, explored yet?
Well, let's see. Now, as far as I know, we've covered every afterlife theory, heaven, hell, reincarnation, and oblivion, which is what they call it when you don't exist. But, the only question that's still in my mind is, which is bigger between the free will topic and knowing for sure whether or not there was an afterlife and what type it was? Which do you think? Which do you think? Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we could actually reincarnate. I think that non-karma based reincarnation is possible based on law of conservation. There is no karma. We won't get a choice in what we come back as. And it doesn't matter what we do in this life. That's irrelevant to what we come back as. I mean, it will just be natural selection, what physical life form will come back as,
Yeah.
Guys, Nick and I have done a few shows. Because we say this free will thing is the biggest thing ever, but then we think, well, actually, if somebody found a way to make everybody completely happy, that would probably be bigger. Or if somebody figured out what happens after we die. But we really haven't explored it in much detail. So maybe tomorrow on our podcast, maybe that can be one of our free will episodes.
Yes, that sounds like a great idea. But just for the record, here's what I think. I think that the free will topic is an even bigger thing than knowing about an afterlife. And here's my reasoning for that, is that I would like to know that I'm not responsible for what I'm reincarnated into or whatever. I'd really like to know that I'm not at fault for what's happening in my life.
That's good. Absolutely.
I mean, that's the benefit I get about this life, realizing it wasn't my choice.
No, I know. That is so important. Again, it's kind of like free will belief is such a burden. People say, "Oh, it's such a gift." What, are you kidding? It's like the anti-gift.
Yeah, the anti-gift. I like that, man. Yeah, yeah, this has been a great podcast. So I guess we'll wrap this one up, and then we'll have to explore some more topics tomorrow.
Thanks, Chandler. Excellent episode.
Okay, you've been listening to Free Will, Science, and Religion with Chandler Klebs, Jamie Soden, and George Ortega. We hope you enjoyed. Bye.